The police officer injured after a shooting involving a naked suspect in Harlem. He's out of the hospital this morning and back with his family. He left St. Luke's around 7. The suspect shot and killed. News 4's Kat Craig kicks off our team coverage from the scene. Kat?
And David, the apartment building where that shooting happened, it's right over here, but we want to show you what's happening over here right away. That vehicle that you see on that New York City Police Department tow truck, that is the man who was shot and killed. That is his vehicle being towed away right now. There is a lot of evidence being taken away here from the scene. In fact, a chaotic scene earlier. Investigators questioned residents and took away evidence from this apartment building in Harlem. It's where a violent confrontation between a police officer and a man with a gun, according to police, ended up with the officer being shot in the chest. The other man was shot and killed. Just before 2 o'clock this morning, residents of the apartment building on Frederick Douglass Boulevard and 148th Street called police to say a man was running up and down the hallway, screaming and breaking glass. 8 officers arrived to find the man naked and pointing a gun at them, according to police. A struggle began with one of the policemen and the other man. People we talked with in the neighborhood believe they know the 29-year-old who was shot to death. The store worker, who did not want to show her face, told us he was always mild-mannered and moved into the building less than a year ago.
He's a very nice guy, like no problem, and I'm surprised. No, I have no problem. He's a very respectful guy.
A resident from the neighborhood says he was told the man who was fatally shot had been causing problems earlier in the night.
Since 8 o'clock in the night, I'd heard about that he was busting some doors, knocking into some doors, buildings, trying to let him.
Extremely safe. This is the first time something like this happened.
A neighborhood described as safe now has officers and detectives by the dozens gathered here trying to figure out what happened. And as you take a live look at the apartment building where that shooting happened, the police officers in this area, some people in the neighborhood told us the man who was fatally shot, he was the super of this building. Police Commissioner O'Neill said he can't confirm that as of yet. It's all part of the investigation. The name of that man who was fatally shot, his name has not yet been released. Reporting live, Catherine Craig, News 4 New York.
Kat, thank you. Let's head upstairs here at 30 Rock to Tracy Strahan in the newsroom, because Tracy, you were there when the officer left the hospital this morning.
And David, talk about a sigh of relief. It's another instance in which the police commissioner reiterated that his officers have an extremely difficult job. Now, we know that officer was one of 8 responding to that early morning call, and by all accounts, he could have been killed by gunfire. Well, there were 2 lines of officers, as you see there, standing shoulder to shoulder, saluting, then applauding their colleague as he was discharged from Mount Sinai St. Luke's in a wheelchair. Now, steps behind him, you see his young son being held by his wife, who's also an NYPD officer. Now, we're told the 2 met while at the police academy. We also know that that 34-year-old was the officer who yelled for help during his struggle with that naked suspect on Frederick Douglass Boulevard. Commissioner O'Neill described what it looked like once he reviewed the incident, from the struggle with the suspect punching him repeatedly to that shooting that ended with a bullet in the officer's bullet-resistant vest.
It was a violent struggle. I saw the body-worn camera footage. It was they went down to the floor. If you watch it, it's extremely disturbing, and I'm glad that the officer is okay.
It's odd when we come to the hospital and say, "Hey kid, you were lucky that he was shot." No, he was lucky that he's a professional police officer, his partner's a professional police officer, and he had that bullet-resistant vest on.
Now, we know that that officer has been with the NYPD since 2012, and this marks the 4th police-involved shooting for the NYPD just in the month of October alone, and in each instance, officers survived without being seriously injured, David.
Tracy Strahan reporting in our newsroom.
Thank you for watching this video from NBC4 New York. You can subscribe by tapping the button below me, and on the left you can see our latest updates, investigations, and digital exclusives. We'll see you next time.